Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. It's a very long journey from awakening to the end point of your human evolution, enlightenment, with many lessons remaining. During this journey, healing continues and karma that remains must be balanced. This may require reincarnating with certain individuals you've previously known. Sometimes this karma is released by giving something, and sometimes by receiving something. However, in the latter case, that karma can usually be released in other ways than with the person you have the karma with. Inheritance is one of the main ways karmic repayment happens, and is often the reason someone reincarnates into a particular family. But there are many other ways. Nevertheless, it isn't unusual for someone who's advanced spiritually to have to reincarnate to bring some kind of completion to a particular relationship. There's usually no resistance to returning for this reason, because once you're this advanced, you aren't necessarily in a hurry to get off the wheel of reincarnation, since life is generally quite pleasant and easy in your later incarnations. After awakening, life becomes easier because you're not creating problems or seeing things as problems, and also because you're not creating karma and may very well have karmic debts owed to you. When you stop creating karma, all that's left is good karma. This explains some of the easefulness and good fortune some advanced souls experience. There's one other reason life becomes easier as you progress spiritually. In your later lifetimes, what's left to do besides cleaning up of conditioning is serving in ways you enjoy. Old souls generally have life purposes they really enjoy, which are also things they're good at. This can't be said of everyone, since some life purposes are quite demanding and difficult. Old souls enjoy serving others, which is one reason they make the sacrifice they do in coming to a place like Earth. They love to serve. Serving is a joy. Fulfilling one's life purpose is a joy. Advanced souls also have the advantage of easily being able to tune in to their life purpose, which they naturally gravitate toward, so there isn't the struggle to find one's place in life, as is so often the case with younger souls. The only thing that might interfere with this is an abusive or unloving childhood, which can set even an advanced soul back. Most advanced souls who choose to come into an abusive or unloving home have a life purpose related to healing. This environment serves their life purpose because healers often have to walk the journey of healing first themselves before they can help others walk it. However, it's possible even for them to not find their way out of their pain. This is more of an exception than a rule, but it does happen. In that case, the soul will do its best to support that person in whatever way it can. If he or she remains stuck in pain and anger or victimhood, the healing that soul needs will take place after death, in between lives, where much is healed and much is learned that wasn't able to be healed or learned while in the body. Such setbacks are not a problem for the soul, as it has all of eternity to evolve, and every life has value to the soul, regardless of what happens. After awakening, you have to get used to a new way of being in the world. You were used to being driven by the voice in your head and by egoic desires, but now that those are no longer prominent and possibly absent, you discover you never needed the voice in your head and its desires. life carries on quite nicely without them. It turns out that you never needed that voice, and this can be quite a surprise. You've lost interest in it, but you still do what you need to and pursue various goals and activities. What's different is that your motivation comes from a deeper place than your thoughts and desires. You just find yourself doing things or moving towards something without thinking about that ahead of time or realizing you were going to do that. That is also a surprise, although before awakening you were moved in this way too at times. But now this is your default. You move without a lot of thought, evaluation, or resistance. This is how the divine self moves in the world. The greater intelligence that you are knows exactly what it's doing and how to take care of what needs to be done. If you need to learn something, you learn it. If you need to speak, you speak. If you need to rest, you rest. Who knows what you'll do next? It doesn't matter because what needs to happen, happens. Things work out effortlessly and without pushing yourself or resisting. If you find yourself falling back into old habits of pushing yourself or hurrying, you notice how contracted you feel, and that may be enough for you to stop a moment and reassess what's driving you and why. There are times when your thoughts and egoic drives do grab hold again, but usually you see this pretty quickly and make another choice. Or maybe you choose to go about things the old way, but you're aware that you're choosing this and willing to suffer the consequences. Suffer. Suffering is much less after awakening, although it still happens. It's much less because you have access to the consciousness that's able to see that you're choosing suffering and you don't have to. After awakening, that's one of the biggest changes. You suffer little and only for short periods of time because you always have access to your divine nature. Sometimes the ego catches you off guard and you say something that's hurtful or negative. As soon as it comes out of your mouth, you realize what happened. You may continue down that road while continuing to be aware of it, or you may choose differently and stop and say, "I'm sorry," forgive yourself, and get that behind you. When the ego shows up in less hurtful ways and you give voice to it, it rings hollow or sounds silly, and often you just laugh. Once the illusion is seen through, it's behind you for the most part, like a bad dream. Once you've seen through the voice in your head, you wonder how you ever believed it. After awakening, it's so obvious that this voice is false, and so obvious what it's up to. How could you have fallen for that? Indeed, but the truth is that the illusion is really hard to see through when you're caught in it. What a blessing it is when you're not. This journey from awakening to enlightenment entails an evolution of consciousness. What I just described is what most experience on this journey, especially just after awakening. But as one's consciousness evolves, it deepens further and opens up to the beauty, vividness, joy, and unity that many mystics describe, where everyone and everything become the beloved. At this stage, many feel a great devotion and love for all living things and for God. This is a much juicier, more love-filled place in consciousness than the place most people land in just after awakening, which can be more of an experience of spaciousness, detachment, and emptiness. With deepening comes an intimacy with and love for life. The previous sense of being an observer of life dissolves into an experience of boundarylessness, unity with all that is, perfection, and a sense that everything is alive and imbued with the divine. There are other depths and stages in consciousness as well, and I will leave that for others to describe, as that is not my intent in writing this chapter. What I'm most interested in speaking about is embodiment, which is about how you are in life as a result of your state of consciousness. Embodiment is important, more important than any state or spiritual experience you may have along the way. The process of enlightenment leads to love, peace, joy, acceptance, and compassion. If your state of being most of the time is not one of love, peace, joy, acceptance, and compassion, then you're not embodied and not enlightened. You're not in your last lifetime. This is a tall order, but this is what I mean by embodiment or integration. Many expansive, elevated, blissful, free, detached, ecstatic, and mysterious states exist on the road from awakening to enlightenment, and each serves a purpose if you're experiencing them. However, these states and experiences are not the goal, but merely part of the journey. The goal is embodiment, and your soul knows how to bring this about. It carefully devises circumstances and experiences, both spiritual and otherwise, that eventually bring you to this goal. Embodiment is especially important in spiritual teachers for reasons that are quite obvious. And yet there are many spiritual teachers who are not embodied. Some of the most impressive spiritual teachers, ones that attract the largest followings, are often those who've experienced extraordinary states and have remarkable psychic gifts, but lack embodiment. They should not be teachers, but they're often the ones most drawn to teaching, while those who are more embodied appear ordinary, unassuming, and humble. The Dalai Lama is an example of someone who is embodied. He walks his talk, as they say. Beware of those who don't. They don't have what you're looking for, although they may have a powerful transmission, but not necessarily a clean one. Beware of spiritual teachers who seem very special, who use their psychic gifts to impress, and who allow others to put them on a pedestal. And pay attention to how these teachers are with others, especially with those closest to them. How you are with others is always what's most important. If teachings or a teacher's presence or transmission helps you to live a life of peace, love, acceptance, and equanimity, then you have found the truth. This is what I wish for you all, and this is my wish for Earth as well. She needs a kinder, gentler humanity, so please go forth in love and peace. I am available to you and to all who call upon me. I and others like myself are at your service always. Peace.